Welcome, everyone. My name is James Peterson, and I'm here to introduce Chris Webb and his session on Awesome Assessment with Awesome Tables. Chris is a Google for Education certified innovator and trainer based in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. As a math teacher and a leader of the Montreal Google Educator Group, Chris works to implement technology into both his own and other classrooms in a way that supports meaningful learning. And with that, I'll pass it over to Chris.
Thank you, James, for the introduction. My name is Chris Webb, and I'm here for the next 30 minutes to take you through assessment with Awesome Tables. So we're going to have a quick look at why we would want to use Awesome Tables and what Awesome Tables are. We're also going to have a look at how we can use them to make assessment more visible. And then we're going to have a look at how we can use row-level permissions to allow our students to see some of the data that we have on them. And we'll go through the technicalities of how to do that. So here's a quick intro to Awesome Tables. So what are Awesome Tables? Well, they're an easy way to represent data on a Google site. So they allow us to search and filter and to control who can see certain pieces of information. And most importantly, the piece that we're interested in today is the row-level permissions. So why are they awesome for assessment? Well, they're awesome for assessment because students can access their row and only their row from a Google Sheet. They can allow us to display any data, and we can use them to display data that is live from a Google Sheet. And by doing this, we allow students to see an overview of their progress in our classes. So here's an example of a regular Awesome Table. So this shows a gradebook that's been published to the web, and we can see here that we have the students' names and all of their marks. Now the issue here is that by showing students this particular view, that they can see everybody's data in the class. So by using row-level permissions with Awesome Tables, this allows us to control who can see the data and who cannot see the data. So there's a few processes in deploying this. So the first step is to create some form of markbook or gradebook. Now this needs to be in a Google Sheet, with the second row of the Google Sheet being the one that configures what the Awesome Table displays. The first column of our Awesome Table or of our Google Sheet needs to be the email addresses of the student who has permission to see that particular row. And we're going to see an example of this in a minute. Once we have all of that set up and we have our data in a sheet, then we need to use the web app proxy, which sounds kind of scary, but it isn't, to allow us to take the data from the sheet and push it onto the internet, because our sheet isn't going to be shared live with the world, because if that was the case, then anybody would be able to see the data in it. Then we need to create our Awesome Table, and then we need somewhere to display our Awesome Table. So usually we would do this in some form of website. So with row-level permissions, we need to do this in a Google site. And this works both in the new sites and in the old sites. So I'm going to say this again. So the important information is that in the second row of our spreadsheet, that these are the table filters. And I'll talk more about these in a minute. And in the first column and the second row, the filter or the information that must be in there must be permissions-hidden. Now this tells Awesome Tables that this column contains the permissions and not to display this data. So that's what the hidden part does. So here's an example. Here's a view of the sheet and how it would appear to students. So we can see here that we have our first column, which is called username, and in the second row we have permissions hidden, and then we have some users, some usernames. So they're just the email addresses for those users. So let's have a look at how we would actually go about creating this. So I'm just going to share a different screen with you. Okay, so here's our spreadsheet. So this is our spreadsheet that we are using. So we can see here that we have our student, the student's names, and then we have all of their marks. So this is something that's already been made. So many of you out there, I'm sure, are probably already using something which looks similar to this, where maybe you have marks and percentages. You maybe have letter grades. And then at the end of the particular term or at the end of that semester, you have a cumulative mark. So across the top here, we have permissions. And this is what controls who can see this particular data. Then we have some filters for the names. And then we're saying that we're not going to filter any of this data. So here, this should also be no filter. Actually, I'm going to change these as well. So they're also no filter and no filter. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to start making our awesome table. So the first step is to actually take this, this web app that we were talking about before, and we are going to make a copy of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and this is all linked, all these links are in the slides for the presentation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a new tab, and I'm going to put in this link, which for some reason that's going to look strange. Here we go, bit.ly/awesome proxy. And this opens up a script. Now, this all looks scary, but we don't actually need to do a huge amount with this. So we're going to go to File, and we're going to make a copy. Initially, it looks like nothing has happened. But if we give it a few seconds, we will see that we get a copy of our script. So this is now your copy of the script. You might want to rename this. So let's call this awesome table script. So you can find it again if you need to. So the next step is to go to Publish, and we want to deploy this as a web app. If you put a description in here, if you have to come back and change something, then we can see which version we're using. So this is the first version. This isn't necessary. And then what we want to do is we want to say that who has the access to the app. Well, anybody within your domain or anyone, it doesn't really matter which one of these you choose. So I'm going to go with anyone. And then deploy. I'm going to review the permissions. Click Allow. And now this is the important part, this current web app URL. So I need to take this web app URL and I need to copy it, and I need to keep it somewhere safe because in a minute we're going to need to use this. So I'm going to actually just go into my spreadsheet here. I'm going to make a new sheet. I'm just going to put it in there so that we have it to keep.
Chris, some of the folks who are watching are not able to see your screen. Are you able to present your screen to everyone?
It says that it's sharing to and presenting to everybody.
All right, maybe if we disconnect and reconnect, we'll get a fix on that.
Can you see it now?
I can see it, and I'll check to make sure that that other folks can. You can go ahead with it. They do have a bit of a delay, and I'll interrupt you again if I need to.
Okay, thanks, James. Okay,
all right,
so yeah, so we're going to go back. So I'll go back a little bit. So I'm going to make a copy. This is the important part. So I've used the link that's in the slides to get to this point where I have this this app script proxy. So I'm going to make a copy of this, and we're going to wait a second. And what we're going to do now, we've got this copy that we're going to give it a new name. So awesome proxy. And then I need to publish this as a web app. So I deploy it as a web app. I can give it a name here. So first version. And I'm going to choose anyone here. And now I'm going to deploy this. I'm going to review the permissions. I'm going to click Allow. And then this is the URL that I need to copy. I need to keep this URL. So this is the vital part. So I've been keeping here. So this is the one that I just created that you can see. So I'm going to paste in the one that I've just created here. I need to keep this somewhere safe. So now my next step is to grab the link for my spreadsheet. So up here, I'm going to copy this link from my spreadsheet. And now I'm going to go to awesome-table.com. And when you log in for the first time, yours is not going to look like this. It's going to ask you to log in with your Google account, and then it's going to ask you to make a new project. Now, I already have some projects made, so I'm going to click on this yellow circle. So I'm going to give my project a name, so I'm going to call it Gradebook. Now I need my spreadsheet URL. So that's this whole spreadsheet URL up to the point of just after edit. I think I just cut the T off, so we'll put that back in when we put it in here. Now I need my sheet name. So my sheet name is the name down here. So this, in this case, this is Gradebook. And then I need a range. So I have a range of my data. So in this case, it's going to be from A1, and we're going to go to N. So we don't want to show our little graphs here. Those aren't going to show up in our awesome table. So we're going to go from A1 to N. So A1 to N. Now I'm not going to put a letter after N. This is a bottomless range. So it's going to keep going all the way on. And we can keep adding students to the bottom of this, and it will still keep working. So I'm going to click Create. So what we're going to see now is we're going to see a view that shows all of our students, because what we haven't told it yet is that we want to only show particular students, particular rows. So under Advanced Parameters, we have a line for AppScript proxy URL. So that URL that we created earlier on, which I now have here, I'm going to come back and I'm going to paste that into this box here. And I'm going to update my view. Now what's going to happen here is it's going to tell me that I have no data to display. I don't have permission to see any data in this table. I didn't give myself any permission. Now, if I go back and I make one of the people in this table me, so I'm going to see Coletta Britton's information. So now if I refresh my awesome table view, then I'm going to get to see the data for Coletta Britton. If I put in that I'm also Rena Korea, then I'm also going to see her data as well. So here you can see that I can see 2 students' data. So this is all being controlled by the email address that I am logged in with. So one other important part here is that any rows which contain labels that you want to appear. So for example, in my awesome table, I have the term, the mark, and the information here. So these 3 rows here. I have to combine all of my students together. And what I've done here is I've used a join function to do that. And again, there's a copy of this gradebook, so you can see all of these functions. So to be able to display those, we need all of that information. So now I've made my gradebook. Now I need to publish my gradebook somewhere. So this is actually pretty easy. I can open my sharing options. And I'm just going to use this link to share, and I'm going to copy it. So now what I'm going to do is I have a Google site. And in my Google site, I have this page called Grades. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to double-click and go to URL. And I'm going to paste in my URL for my awesome table. Now I'm going to publish this. And I'm just going to view the published site. So now this page is embedded on my Google site. And you can see that these 2 students are the students that I can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this link and I'm going to log into the same site as 2 other students. So we're going to log in, first of all, as Ricky and then as Merlin. Okay, so I'm just going to stop screen sharing that screen. And I'm going to open Ricky and Merlin's. And okay, so first of all, let's share this window. So now we can see that we're logged in here as Ricky. So what if I go to my home page here, the table that I just created, you can see that in Ricky's account, we can only see Ricky's line. Okay, so if I also share with you again, okay, this one is Merlin's. So you can see at the top here, we're logged in as Merlin. And this allows us to only see Merlin's marks. So Merlin can only see her marks, and Ricky can only see his. And when I log in as me, I see two other students' marks. So we're allowing our students to see grades and assessment data based on their particular access permissions. So this is a great resource to use for allowing students to see marks. You can also use this to show them which things they have mastered. You can use them to show them standards. This doesn't have to be numbers. This can be a wide variety of information that you have about them. And it allows them to see instantly how they're doing and how they're progressing in a particular concept. So these are the resources. So here we can see that we have 4 different things. So the first thing is a copy of the proxy script. So this proxy script that I have for you is the one that I've just used. And you can make a copy of this in the way that I showed you. The sample data allows you to see the gradebook that I shared with you. And then the Google site allows you to see that information presented. Now, when you go on this site, you're going to see that in actual fact, what you see is no data display. You don't have any permission to see this. And then along with this, there's a set of step-by-step instructions that walk you through this step by step by step. So now on to some questions. Hopefully people have plenty of questions. So I'll ask James to come in here and see if what questions we have to answer.
Some folks would like to know, does this require an education account, a G Suite for Education account?
Yeah, so we either need to be using a G Suite for Education or a G Suite for Work to be able to control which users can see which data, because we need to be able to get them to log into a Google site, and the only way to log into a Google site is if we have a G Suite for Education account or a G Suite for Education domain.
Okay, and where can folks go to learn more about just Awesome Tables in general?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Awesome Tables have a few places to find it. I'll just share my screen with you again, and I can show you. Over here. So on the Awesome Tables site that we used before, you'll see that if we go back to the home page by clicking on Awesome Table, there's a little question mark up here which says documentation. And when we click on that documentation, it actually takes you to a site which has some instructions on how to set up basic configurations, how to set up different Awesome Tables, and they also have some templates. So Awesome Tables will do way more than what we've just covered here. So we can have online bookstores. You can also use have a gallery. So this is also great for elementary students who maybe haven't started to read yet. You can have a class site, and you can have these bright, colorful icons that they can sit on, that they can click on to go to different resources on the internet. So also along with this, there's also a help forum, and there's some add-ons as well which work with Awesome Tables and allow you to do things like create maps, create sites catalogs, and lots of other interesting things.
And to use the Awesome Table, does it have to be embedded into a Google site?
I believe so. I haven't tried it with another web provider. I've only used it with Google Sites. There's been some updates recently. Feel free to try it and see if it works. But my experience has been only with Google Sites and the ability to log in. Something else which is worth mentioning at this point is if you are going to use this and you want to use it with students, there's some information about installing an add-on onto your domain, and you need to talk to your apps admin about this. It stops a prompt coming up every time the students view the table. It doesn't stop it from working if you don't install the add-on, but it does allow them easier access to the table.
Okay, that looks like that's about it for our questions.
Give it a second and see if anybody has any more questions. Feel free to ask away.
Okay. And where can folks go to learn more of the cool stuff that you're doing online, Chris?
So they can go to my website, which is www.ebb.ca. And on there, there's actually a link to an Awesome Table mini site, which walks you through some of the features that Awesome Tables have on offer, and also takes you and shows you some of the information for my Ninja Bootcamp, which I run in collaboration with the EdTech team. So if you're interested in that, that's available there too.
Awesome. That's the only word I have for this.
It is indeed awesome. So is that the end of the questions, James?
Looks like that's it.
Excellent. Well, I'm just going to share the last few slides with you, and we'll wrap this up. So hopefully you found this useful. Feel free to connect with me on Twitter or on Google+. The information is here. Also, feel free to connect with James. James is also has a wealth of information to offer and will be able to provide you with a lot of information. You can also achieve PD credits for watching this presentation from Google, and the information about that is available on the Education on Air website. So thank you for attending. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to continue to ask questions and enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Thank you, James, for thank you for moderating.
It's been my pleasure.
Okay, thank you.